Thank you very much for joining us. I also want to thank Hunter College for hosting this exhibit and the library that allowed us the use of the exhibit space. I also want to thank Yasha Klots personally for giving me opportunity to work with him on this extremely interesting project. I learned a lot. My name is Alla Roylance. I'm a librarian from NYU. I wanted to explain a little bit of the logic of this exhibition. It obviously has serious limitations. It's a very small space for the project of this magnitude. Therefore, we decided to put certain limits on the choice of the exhibit items, display items that we selected. First of all, we have only 7 windows. We had only a short time to assemble materials. We had also experienced a personal drama of mine. A lot of these books, while they're not really all that rare and are held in many library collections, they have been mutilated by library stamping and binding. So it was not that difficult or easy to find original books in the original covers and condition. Right? We limited ourselves geographically. The focus of the exhibit is publishing houses in Germany, France, and United States. Of course, they were not the only loci of the publication. We have several. Israel is, for instance, one of the important players. We have a few representative samples of the publications from Israel. We also limited ourselves to mostly literary work. As we all know, Tamizdat, in all senses, produced an old Tamizdat, a new Tamizdat with the focus of Yasha's project, included a lot of political publications, political journalism, political thought. Not much of it represented here. Some publishing houses, such as Chelidze Publishers, was not even included in here. It's not that it was not important. It is very important, but we were limited by the physical limits, confines of this exhibit. As I said, I'm missing something. Hold on a second. Okay, if it comes back to me, I'll talk about it. This exhibit is also unique in a way that it only exhibits printed material. As we were just describing in the conversation upstairs, Tamizdat involved much. There was a huge logistical operational system that involved smuggling and resmuggling and printing. So we could hopefully, just like Yasha's exhibit, website that grows and has huge potential, we also fantasize about making another exhibit in the future, which would be in a bigger space and would include material evidence of Tamizdat, photographic tapes, diplomatic pouches. I don't know. That would be awesome. Alexander Genis, in his interview with Yasha on the Radio Svoboda, mentioned some of the materials were smuggled by the circus performers in the tiger cages. So I just can't imagine how much more of a physical evidence of the Tamizdat logistics could have been included. However, this is the completely printed material. This is all we have. There is no even archival materials, letters, correspondence are not included there. So, when we were trying to figure out the logic of this exhibit, we immediately zeroed on the major publishing houses, and there are 4 windows out of 7 are dedicated to individual publishing houses. Passev from Germany, YMCA Press, or IMCA Press, like we call it in Russian, and also two windows dedicated to American publishing houses. One combines 2 publishing houses, Chekhov Publishing House and Interlanguage Literary Associates, something that we called pre-third wave, meaning third wave of immigration, and the individual display window for artists. We also felt that it was important, with our very limited space, to show how diverse rich, multinational. The whole universe of Tamizdat was, and we included publications from different publishing houses in the first window. You will notice that they also have books that says publisher Chekhov, издательство Чехова. It is different from the American publishing house from the 50s, the early 50s. Somebody should write a paper why the later publication chose to operate under the same name. I understand there is a lot of confusion around this. There is, in this window also we have some examples of Polish samizdat, also a lot of criticism was happening there about Yasha being unresponsive to non-Russian Tamizdat. It's not true. And also there is one book at least from a Fligon publishing company which was purely piratical, pirate. What we call now is piracy. They were just publishing copyright, non-copyright, knowledge, non-knowledge, editorial control, no editorial control, just cranking out the texts the way they saw it. Also, in the first display, there is examples of almanacs, and some artifacts may look like a strange bedfellows. On the same shelf we have Потаённая Муза and Blue Lagoon, but it's just an example of just disclaimer, so that some choices may look weird, but there is a logic behind it. So also we have from Alexander Genis we have a sample of Metropole before it was printed by artists. It's a print typescript that was sent to the reviewers, possible reviewers, and Alexander Genis still has it in his company. Just while I'm on this, I want to acknowledge people who contributed materials from their private collections. Not only private, there is a lot of books actually came from Hunter College, from a department, Russian and Slavic Studies department in Hunter College collection, from New York University, but also without private kindness, it would be impossible to find some of the materials. Anna Freilich books are here in Polish. Alla Zaide contributed some unique materials. Roman Utkin as well. And am I forgetting somebody else?
Of course.
Of course. Pushkarev, yes, thank you. The private collection of Boris Pushkarev and Irida Lehkaya, a lot of them came from this collection. Thank you so much. So let's see what we have some. Oh, there are some books have autographs. There are some people in this audience may be recipients of some of the autographs in those books. Can you mention some? Yeah.
Well, we were limited with space, obviously. So some of the books that you see closed, they are actually more interesting inside. But
I fought with him because he wanted to put anything. There would be no air if I left it for him because it's so much information we didn't include. But yeah.
So there is quite a number of fascinating inscriptions by Brodsky to Iraida Lehkaya, who owns this copy and who used to work for the Voice of America. And the inscription reads, to Iraida Lehkaya, the Voice of America from the Russian mouth. Or
deep throat, Russian deep throat.
So
it was right. Yeah.
Then over there you see another copy of Aigi, published by Syntaxis in Paris, which was first read by Ivan Yelagin, the poet of what we call the second wave, with an inscription, and the idea is quite different from any great poetry. The inscription reads: «Я прочел, сказал Изыди и отправил Ираиде». Did you translate it?
I did translate it. I don't remember. This I read and said, "Be gone," and to Iraida sent it on.
Bravo.
Some curiosities, textological curiosities, are inevitably brought to the surface. So you see this 2-volume of Vysotsky.
No, it was Bard. The mistake?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, right.
Песни русских бардов, published by YMCA. This volume, or perhaps another volume, features Юза Лешковский's famous song «Товарищ Сталин, вы большой ученый», published as if it was written by Vladimir Vysotsky. So this tells us something along about how little Soviet folklore how little it was familiar.
But I also wanted to say that we once we sort of figured out the core of the collection, we also felt that it was important to have two thematic exhibits, and one of them has to do with Gulag or camp or prison publications. Yasha's intern calls it, the name of the exhibit is The Gulag Bears Witness, and Yasha's assistant calls it Медведи Гулага, the Gulag Bears. It has all these materials that were just discussed in Yasha's presentation. It has the first issue of Novy Mir, of November 1962, where the Ivan Denisovich was published. And right next to it, there are examples of a couple of publications of Requiem. One is in Russian, another in Estonian, and another of Опустелый дом. And I understand that one of the reasons that the title of Sofia Petrovna was changed, just because it sounds like a cousin of Ivan Denisovich, Sofia Petrovna, Ivan Denisovich. So they didn't want this echo, so they changed the name. One of the reasons.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. And also we had another window with the periodicals. Also, as Yasha said, periodicals were often ahead of the book printing presses. For instance, Ami published Москва Петушки. Ami, Israel-based publication. Ami published Москва Петушки first, and then it appeared in YMCA, right? YMCA, and it's Roma Utkin's copy with a beautiful cover art. I know that magazines sipped a little bit through under the Gulag exhibit. There is also Novy Mir with the first publication of Cherry Brandy.
Новый журнал.
Новый журнал. What did I say? Novy Mir. Новый журнал.
But
Yeah, but because it has to do with the fate of Osip Mandelstam, we felt it was a fitting place to place it in that. Because magazines also published a lot of Gulag, so to speak, literature before the books came out. Enjoy.
yes, we
Yes.
should take some free time. Thank you, Alla.
Oh, I forgot one more important thing. There is a lot of these books were selected because the papers in this conference are dedicated to this particular book. So we have Kuzminsky book was because of Ilya Kuku, not because, but in large measure because Ilya Kuku is making a presentation on it. Polina Barskova, her subject of the siege of Leningrad is reflected in Blockade by Darov. Polish Tamizdat, of course, there will be a separate session on it, is presented here. Ronald Myers is doing presentation on Azhog, and we found, when we were working on it, we found the little blurb on the back of the Azhog, which says, burn found its way to artists 5 years ago. One of our editorial staff found a hefty package in the shrubbery. It was exhausted from a long flight and was in desperate need of rest. Lately, Russian manuscripts have developed new skills. Bulgakov, as we all know, have discovered their resistance to heat. Now, they have learned the skill of crossing state borders. Turns out they can fly, perhaps a little clumsily, but still, like herons, like Tsapli. Whoever wrote it was brilliant. So Alexander wrote it. And of course there is also exhibit on connected to Yasha's presentation on Ivan Denisovich and periodicals. Oh you say it.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention two more in that stand. These are the first volumes of the multi-volume collected works edition by Interlanguage Literary Associates, one of Akhmatova, the other of Mandelstam, which we have thanks to Robin Foyer Miller. It comes from her collection. They are inscribed not by authors clearly, but by the publisher, the editor, Professor Gleb Struve from UC Berkeley, and they were. One of them was given to Catherine Foyer, and the other one to Robin, who will tell us more about this fascinating and disturbing story from back in 1963 tomorrow. I'm sure we have forgotten many things.
So, yeah, but we're also thinking about making one or two more guides for it. So if you will,
the exhibit will be up until at least the 19th or
December 19th, yeah. Yeah, information is coming.
Yeah.
When this,
By tomorrow we'll know when there will be at least 2 more guided tours for those who are not here today.
Great.
I think we should just...
That's it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Значит, и своя коллекция. У меня просто I do think there was certainly just these awful then it's fun.
It's here. Издательство «Литературное зарубежье». But also,
I'm discussing tomorrow. Although I'm
Pre-Dr. Живан.
Yeah, so far.
okay.
Ну, первое. Oh, you just.
Yeah,